So now let's talk about the linear and circular sketch pattern, and we use these pattern tools to make multiple objects along a pattern like rectangular or circular. Now I'll start with linear pattern and I'll use this sketch. So I have this slot. I want to make 2 rows and 10 columns of this slot inside this rectangle, and for that I'll go to this linear sketch pattern. If you click this arrow, you'll see the second one, which is circular. So let's select linear. Now we have several options here, like we have the direction 1 panel, direction 2 panel, entities to pattern, and instances to skip. Let's start with direction 1. So in the direction 1, x-axis is selected, which is exactly along this line. In the direction 2, y-axis is selected, which is exactly along this. Also, the number of objects along x is 2, along y it is 1. So currently this won't make any difference. As long as your object is not selected, nothing is going to show up. So let's select the object which we want to pattern, and to do that I'll go to this entities to pattern box and I'll click on it. Now I'll select this center line of the slot, and this will select the entire slot. Slot 1 is now selected, and now you can see 2 columns or 2 objects along x-axis and just 1 along y. Let's change number of objects to see it in a meaningful way. So I'll just increase number of objects along x-axis using this option. So that's number of instances or number of objects. You can just click on these arrows to increase or decrease it, or you can also add your own number. For example, I'll type 10 and I'll press the tab key. There we have it. Now the next option is number of objects along y. Currently it's 1, and that's why we don't have the gap, because with one object gap is kind of redundant. So as soon as I increase this number to, let's say, 2, you will see that, well, an extra object is added and also gap is also added here. This becomes active. So here we just want, well, 2 columns, but I'll just increase it to maybe 4 in order to show you how this is gonna look. All right, now this is making your array along this direction, along this upwards direction. I want to make it along this direction down below. To do that, to reverse the direction, you just need to click on this arrow, and there it is. The direction changed along y-axis. If you want to change the direction along x, click this arrow. That will reverse the direction. Well, we don't want that, so I'll click this arrow again. You can also change the direction using these arrows. So if you want to change it along x, click here. Along y, click here. Now we want 2 objects along y, so I'll just type 2 and tab key. There we have it, but the gap is not right. So I'll change the gap. It's 10 mm. I'll make it 26. There we have it. Now this looks clear. In a similar way, I'll change the gap between x-axis objects using this. So it's 10 mm. Let's make it 9.6. There we have it. That's the gap between these columns. Now currently the direction is exactly along x, but what if you want to change that? Now if you want to change it, then click on this dot right here, right next to this x-axis arrow, and move it. And in this way you can change the direction. Now the direction of this line is along 15.69 degrees as shown here. So you can change this even more, and this angle will now change to 30. So you can just change it in a dynamic way, or you can type in a number, like you can just make it, let's say, 20 degrees and press tab key. This will change. I'll keep it at 0. In a similar way, you can change the direction along y. Now along y, the direction is already 270 degrees because the horizontal line is treated as 0 degrees, and this rotated by an angle of 270 to reach this arrow. So 180 like this and then 90 here. So that makes it 270 degrees. If, however, you reverse the direction just by clicking here, it will change to 90 degrees, which is this angle. So I'll just reverse it again. And now if you want to change it again, grab this one and move it however you want. I just want it at 270. So I'll just type in 270 and there we have it. Now, last option here is instances to skip. Click on it, and now you'll have these pink dots. Using these pink dots, you can select the objects that you don't want in your final drawing. So there we have it. Now, we will have an array without these two objects. If you want to select more, you can select more of these objects. And once you are done, click this green check mark. But before I do that, I'll change this number, this x-axis distance to 9.7 and this y-axis distance to 27. And I'll click OK. And that's the linear pattern. Let's see what we have in circular pattern. And that's this drawing which I'll use. So I'll select the circular pattern, but now instead of selecting the tool first, I will select the object first. So I'll click on this. Now the object is selected. I'll go to the circular pattern. And in this case, you'll notice that automatically in the entities to pattern, slot 2 is selected. So if you select your object first, it will automatically fill it inside entities to pattern. So one less work to do in circular pattern tool. All right. Now let's go to the first option, which is our point. So it's selecting point 1 as the default center of rotation. So let me zoom out and let me show you where the point 1 is. That happens to be the origin. And SolidWorks keeps selecting origin as the first point. There we have it. But you can change it. You can make it anything which you want. We'll get to that, but first let's see what other parameters we have. Then we have point 0, 0, which is just the coordinates of point 1. So the coordinates of point 1 is 0, 0, which happens to be the origin. If you change this coordinate value, as you can see, the arrow will move from its point. So here I'll just click and there we have it. It will move according to the changes which we are making here. All right, then we have angle. So currently it is filling your pattern along 360 degrees. Now that may not make much of a sense here because we don't have enough objects to show that. So let's first change the parameters that really matter. The first one is this center point. I want to move it exactly here. In order to do that, you can just grab this point, and if this point is at origin, you can just change its coordinate values ever so slightly, and when it's off, just grab this and move it here. All right. Now our point 1 is exactly where it should be, and the coordinates of that point will be filled automatically. Also, you can see that the radius is 27.05 mm for this pattern circle. You can change that. You can make it larger like this or smaller. But changing the radius will obviously change the center location. So I'll just move it back to the same point once again. Now let's see the number of objects, which is 4. That's 4 objects. I'll make it 5. And you can see this 6. There we have it. So I'll just keep it at 5. And with that, we'll just click OK. But before we do that, how about now checking this option, which is the fill angle. So currently your object is filling the complete 360 degree circle. But if you don't want that, then select this and fill it maybe along 180 degrees only and press Tab key. Now it is filling your objects along the semicircular path only. So if you connect any corresponding points, for example, the center of this slot with the center of last slot, this will make a 180 degree angle. We want it exactly along 360. So I'll type 360 and press Tab key. Now this is actually the angle which your line, this line is making currently in the array, which is 216.80 degrees from this exact point. So if you make a straight line like this and then start measuring the angle in anti-clockwise direction just along this, and I accidentally clicked, so that deselected the object, that's fine. I'll just click on it again. This will bring it back. All right. So if you make a line and then measure this angle in this way, then the angle of this line will be 216.80 degrees. Changing this angle will once again change the center location, which I won't recommend. So I'll once again grab it and move it back. And finally, instances to skip. So expand this, click this box, and you can then select the instances that you don't want. For example, maybe these two. But I don't want to skip any of these, so I'll right click and select this clear selection. And I'll click OK. And there we have it. So we have the circular pattern. Now let's make one pattern out of this. And to do that, I'll first trim these things. Well, maybe only this one. And now I'll use this arc and make a pattern. So I'll go to this circular sketch pattern. In the entities to pattern, I'll select this arc. Now, once again, as expected, it will move it back to this point. So you can just grab it, move it here, or maybe in this case, I'll just decrease the radius. So decreasing the radius will change its location. All right, and now I'll just grab it and move it here. All right, then let's increase number of objects. It is 4. I'll make it 21. So we now have 21 objects, or maybe I'll just make it 24. There we have it. Now, if you want to skip some of these instances, you can expand it, select skip, but I'm pretty much satisfied with this. And if you once again want to just fill it along maybe 180 or just 270 degrees, you have the option right here. So if I, let's say, type 270 and tab key, this will fill this complete pattern only along 270 degrees. But I don't want that either. So I'll just type in 360, tab key, and I'll click OK. And that's our circular sketch pattern.